Hi, I'm Gaila Cohen Morrison from Untitled Chapter from A.H.A.V.A, and we put out a book called Reading Rocks. And I'm here to tell you how it works so that you can use it most effectively with your students. Reading Rocks is a book for reading stories to promote reading fluency. You can see in the table of contents that every unit has 3 stories working on the same phonic concept, but you have 3 times for the student to practice the same thing. And here's how the stories actually work. We have an introduction here which says everything both in English and in Hebrew of what I'm saying, but for those of you who prefer it in print, here it is, and on audio. Okay, so every single page is set out the exact same way. You have the preparation and the story. And the preparation consists of three parts. You've got the phonics, which is what here tells us what we're working on. We have words here on the phonic idea that we're working on, the words that are found a lot in the story, the phonics that are found a lot in the story. The child is supposed to just read the words. There's no need for them to understand them. There'll be some words in the story, there'll be other words as well, going over it in a phonic sense, in rhymes and so on. The next part is the story words. The story words are the words from the story that we thought the children might not know how to translate. They're supposed to write on top of this, they're supposed to write a translation in their mother tongue of what these words mean. Finally, we come to the phrases section. The phrases section is what makes this book very different from lots of other books. The child is supposed to read the phrases. Every word over here in the story words are used in the phrase section at least 3 times, but they're used differently. And so they read sits and sits, this hen has, and so on. They should be able to read it fluently, like the way I just read it. If necessary, they can read this whole section 3 times or 4 times until they're fluent. Then they go back and they read it again and translate it orally. They do not write it, but simply translate it orally. Sits and sits. What's sits? Oh, they see it here. Okay, A.H.A.V.A, A.H.A.V.A, and so on. When they have finished doing that, they're going to be ready to read the story. They go to the next page, and they just read the story. That's all that happens. They read it, and they understand it, because they've used all these words already. They know how to deal with the phonics, and so they can just read it fluently and understand what's going on. In case there'll be a few words they might forget, we put a spiral binding in so the book lies flat, and they have easy access to all the words that they might not know. There are 2 more tools for you to use in Reading Rocks, and this is what they are. There's what we call Make a Pic, which is to make small little pictures, not one picture of what the whole story is about, but little pictures about every line or every other line, what it means, because each line is slightly different. Like N has eggs, N has 2 eggs, N has 2 big eggs, and sits, and sits, and sits. Each one is a little bit different from the one before, so they can make a little picture. If you're dealing with older students who might be embarrassed about or feel funny about making pictures, you can have them just write the translation. The other tool we have is a reading fluency tool. These numbers over here that you see, well, from the beginning of the title until here, that is 19 words. From the beginning of the title until here is 38. You put a timer on for 1 minute, and you let the child read. They should be able to read this in a minute. They might not get there in the first lesson, though. So they read as far as they get. Let's say they get to here. You say, great, 38, 39. You read 39 words in a minute. Wonderful. Mark it down. The following day, have them do the same thing. Have them read it out again. And when they read it out again and they get all the way to 60, boy, they're going to feel great about themselves. And that's how every single story in this book works. We have a second section. The section, what's called More Stories. In this section, we don't have any phonics. We simply took all the words that we'd used, the story words, and we made more stories out of them. So they have more practice in the phrases. And in the very back here, I just want you to note that we've got a glossary. This glossary is has all the words that are all the story words are in here. So if a child even would want to go on and work on by themselves, they could very possibly do it because the translation for all the story words are there. And that is Reading Rocks. We hope that it will really help the children to feel in the end that truly reading rocks.